It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time once again for the Andy and Rem Show, episode 131. This is, as always, the home of sizzle, spice, quite a few things that are nice. So, as we dispatch the thumbnail, welcome. I'm joined as usual by Mr. Remington, who seems to be, much like a Death Star, fully operational. Is that right?
Fully operational. Fire at will.
But yes, I hear that you've remedied your exploding PC problem.
I have a new PC. I'm just waiting for the super duper fast Sky broadband to kick in on Friday, and then you will see me in super duper HD quality, mate. It's going to be amazing.
People cannot wait for that. And you've got, is that a new microphone setup, or is it just the new PC?
It's new PC, new microphone, new everything. So you should be hearing me real nice.
So just as you've actually given me top quality studio versions of all the songs, maybe now is the time you could actually do live versions. It wouldn't cut out constantly.
Well, I don't know.
Should we try that out? Should we have a little song now to test?
Okay.
Test the technology.
Which Coven? Which Coven? Everybody's talking about which Coven? Andy the Younger is getting down. Everybody's talking about which Coven. They'll slice him, they'll dice him, they'll sacrifice him. Whatever it takes for the Witch Coven.
That didn't cut out one bit.
Wow. Hey, cool, man.
Hope the people appreciate that. So, everybody, it's been not particularly spicy week, and then just today I spotted a big pile of news. I'm sure it was out yesterday. I happened across lots of it today. First of all, though, as usual, Mr. Remington, before we get into any of this Warcry nonsense, shall we have a look at the Games Workshop stocks? What's going on? I assume it's not another all-time high because you're not raving about it immediately.
Yeah, what we're looking at. Are we looking at the stock price today? Everything's gone down, as you might expect, with fears of a second wave and places like your old stomping ground being closed, or much of it being closed.
Yes.
That's Manchester area. And Nottingham, where you live now, is in the second highest, most infected part of England. But I can see a pattern. Isn't it interesting that both places where Andy has been show the highest infection rates?
Well, that is because the vast amount of fans that I have on this channel, wherever I'm living, they generally flock that area. I think that could possibly explain it. And when they're having all these big illegal, like, fan fest events, and they're all mingling, of course, so that could account for various regional outbreaks.
Well, so everything's been suffering. The stocks, the mood, the people, the shops, and the stocks are no different. And Games Workshop's been on a terrific run. You're looking on that picture at the 1 month chart, and you can see that even though there's been ups and downs, we are still on a very strong upward trend. And there was a time on this very show, not least maybe a few weeks ago, that I was saying, Andy, can the Games Workshop price breach £100 a share? And it seems the answer was yes, it can, because we've reached a high so far of £108 a share, and it's tucked down a little bit now at £104. But nevertheless, Remington has a very good buffer because I bought in at £60, so I'm almost 75% up. So I'm very happy about that. And we've been getting some good comments. Interested G too says, Remington, how's it going, my man? And when are you going to start making content again, my friend? I'm going to make it very, 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 very soon. I think.
Are you really? Or is that going to be Remington's financial tips channel, which nobody cares about really? Everyone just wants Remington's pillow talk. They want to hear about halflings.
Well, I've been watching Warhammer content from other nameless channels, and they suddenly start talking about shareholders and stocks and Games Workshop, stuff like that. And it's just like, is that just a coincidence? I think not. Trailblazers are we on this channel, Andy?
Trendsetters. We're the ones out there digging the trenches, and then the other YouTubers, and in fact companies such as GW, climb into our trenches and take advantage of our hard work.
Exactly. And, I feel sorry for the guys in Wales and Ireland, big up to all, that are now suffering what's known in this government's plan as circuit breakers. So they're getting a 2-week lockdown, man. And listen, I'm in Leicester, and we had almost twice the length of lockdown than other cities in England, and it sucked, man. So that's what we're here for, isn't it, Andy? We're here to keep you company, keep you entertained, keep you in the loop, keep you in the know, and keep your imaginations running wild.
In these unprecedented and turbulent times, you need something to take your mind off it, and what better than the spicy entertainment that we provide, delivered straight to your senses via the internet. So, speaking of spicy, Warcry Catacombs. So there is quite a lot here. One thing that grabbed some people is the price tag, which I think sailed under the radar a little bit because it came hot on the heels of the Gargant, which was about the same price as this entire set, in fact.
Wow, what would you rather have?
Well, I'm not sure. We're going to have to look at the miniatures and assess that, and the terrain that comes in the box. So,
everyone that I've met that's played Warcry says they really like it, and they like it better than Underworlds and Shadespire. And I have to admit, I like the figures, man, and I missed out on the first Warcry box, so maybe I won't miss out on this second one.
Maybe. I have heard good things about it as well. People who don't like 40k Kill Team, for example. I'm one of those people. I've played it, I wasn't a fan. People have told me that if you don't like Kill Team, you'll probably like this, because it's not the same. So, Scions of the Flame, first of all. And very apt name. There's flames all over the place. The handle of the sword appears to be on fire. So if he stabbed you that far in, just in case you weren't quite dead enough, you'll then get a bit flamed as well. Because why not? Flaming, is that a flaming arrow there?
Let's have a look.
I can't even tell. Is that a bow? Let's zoom in a bit here.
A couple of the guys in this warband look really weedy. Don't you think? Some of them look really tough.
That one looks like it's completely on fire.
Yeah, the one like holding it over his head. He looks like a Chaos champion, doesn't he? Like it's the same kind of mold. I'm sure I've seen that pose before.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a Khorne vibe going on with the colours and the helmets. The armour, very spiky, chaotic. How do you feel then about fire?
Well, the thing is, Andy, why do they have to be all chaos? Why can't they be like Signs of the Flame and they're kind of like, a subsection of Sigmar fanatics? Why do they always have to be chaos? I don't know.
They love chaos, don't they?
I like them though.
So they're pretty cool. I like these for the most part. Then we move on to the K-Knight Shadow Stalkers. Now these are going to be more up your alley, aren't they?
Yeah, now I've got a question for you all, and you guys in the chat. Like, can these guys be used in Age of Sigmar? Do they have separate rules, or do you just, use them as witch elves and assassins and Melusai?
Someone in here will know that. So, what do you think?
Love these guys. I love them because you got a Sister of Slaughter there. You got a couple of witch elves, a couple of assassins, and like a Melusai queen.
I thought that this one was kind of a snake body, but it's not. It's actually kind of a vaguely magical looking cloak trailing off, perhaps, or some magical energy coming out of its butt.
Yeah, they look kind of dark and vapish.
Yes. And
Um,
holes in the cloaks, left and right.
yeah, I kind of like that because it's like it's it's sort of mingled with the night, isn't it? It's shrouded in mystery and
Yes, the mystery of why you would put holes in your cloak. These are definitely something I could see you sinking your painting fangs into.
yeah, I do like those. What do you think of this? Well, we haven't gotten to the scenery yet, but what do you think of like the way the board looks? Because it's very chaosy, isn't it? And very lava.
Well, let's have a look right now. First of all, 30 by 22 inches,
Right.
which is a really weird size,
Okay.
but I'm sure they've determined that that's perfect for the game somehow. And those are the two sides of it. So you've got one very fiery, obviously big juicy chaos symbol in the middle there, and the other
Right.
one
So
is a bit more pedestrian looking, just a few cracks running through the earth, nothing strange going on here. Certainly not
so
an evil temple.
you can turn it over then and use the other side.
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
37 pieces of dungeon terrain. So here it is. Got various gateways and arches that look very similar to the old Warhammer Quest doors, actually.
I like the bell tower. I think you get that in a pack of Mortal Realms magazine.
That is a nice piece there. You get these ruins with roofs on, of course. You've got bridges. You've got bridges like this one that are clearly designed to go over the lava river. You don't want to be swimming around in that thing.
Oh, that's
And
cool. I like that. A lot of
it's a
painting, though,
nice
isn't it?
terrain set. It
That
would
kind of
be.
thing could take me like 6 months to a year to paint that,
I
unless I'm
think it'd be
really
really quick to paint for me, this terrain, because it'd just be dry brush central.
right. Okay.
Get it
Yeah,
a
fair
really
enough.
nice dark grey as the base coat, and then just progressively lighter greys of dry brush, and I think it'd be pretty good. And then just pick out the details, the skulls and whatnot. I wouldn't mind painting this set. Okay, so scrolling down, so the books, of course, you get in there as well. Big fat juicy core book, of course, and the Catacombs book. So presumably this is specifically for battles fought in the Dungeons of Chaos. So let's see what it says. Catacombs book, meanwhile, takes the action underground, detailing the dangerous network of subterranean caverns surrounding Varan Thax's Maw. The book's tunnels, death rules, then go on to provide you with everything you need to know about fighting within this deadly environment, with sections devoted to dungeon battle, as well as campaign quests, and even fated quests, which are available to every faction. So just expanding the rules in new and spicy ways.
Nice, but it teaches you how to play if you don't know how to play it as well.
Books generally do that.
Yeah.
And this guy, who I said looked like he was entirely on fire, you can see here that he mostly is.
Right.
Just a big old ball of flame.
Wow. He's a sign of the flame.
Gaming tools that you get in there as well. Get
Right.
tokens. Well, for 120 or 125 pounds, however much it is, you better get tokens. Big powered dice as well. Nice symbols on. Not sure about the dice colours. I think they could have had orange in there.
That is orange, isn't it? It's orange.
No, that's a bit too ready, that one.
Oh, all right.
And that's an odd colour for a dice there. Kind of a Nurgle colour, that to me. Very. What is that?
It looks like
Is it
miso
green?
soup, doesn't it? Miso soup colour.
The complete content. So let's see, is that worth more than a Gargant? Dice, tokens, 2 big fat books. How many pieces? 37 pieces of terrain, which you can see there.
It's
The two-sided
all
battle
in one, isn't
mat.
it?
That's the perfect size for this game.
You get a whole game ready to go.
Yes, and these 2 factions. Is that worth more to you than 1 Gargant, who also, for a limited time, came with free coasters as well? So let's not forget that when we're discussing value.
I think this is great value for money then, if you're comparing it to the Gargant. But I mean, who wouldn't want a Gargant still?
That's the thing, it's got the rule of cool going for it. It's one of those things, everyone would want to own a Gargant if they had the opportunity, I think.
I want both. I wonder if you can use a Gargant in Warcry. Maybe they'll write rules for it.
That sounds like it would be slightly overpowered. No?
And also, Andy, I believe they're bringing out some more Warcry sets for other factions like Ratmen. I mean Skaven. I think
Well,
you get a couple of Rat Ogres and bits and bobs there.
have we seen anything on the Warhammer community about that yet?
Yeah, yeah. There's four. There's four. I can't remember what the other three are. What the other three armies are.
We can dance into that next week then, because there's bound to be more juicy content. So, this is a game that you say you're interested in trying out. Is that
Yeah.
a fact? So we haven't played Necromunda yet. How and whether we can anytime soon remains down to local lockdown regulations. How are your Escher coming along?
I've built 5 of them, but I haven't started painting them because I'm still finishing off my Beast Grave Witch Elves, of which I've only got the Sister of Slaughter left to paint. And then a big loon shrine got in the way. So I've just about 80% finished that. That was great fun to paint, by the way.
We've got some
Love
pictures
painting
of that
big
coming up as well, so
Yeah.
stay tuned, folks, and you can wrap your eyeballs around that.
Ew.
So, what are you more excited about potentially? Continuing with your Necromunda, or pushing them to the back of the painting table and leaping onto Warcry Catacombs?
Oh, well, if I do that, I'm going to really go back into my old habits there of maybe that's something that a lot of gamers do is bite off more than they can chew.
That
And
is
end up
definitely
with a
true.
mountain of plastic. I'm into just buying something and then painting it. But the problem with that is that GW these days seems to get sold out of stuff real quick.
Well,
Right?
I can tell you, as soon as it's legal in these lands, if you wanted to buy a copy of this, then I will give you a game of it.
Cool.
I think we could do that. And it would be a
Yeah.
nice way to reintroduce the world to our actual on the table Age of Sigmar content as well, rather than just the spicy live shows. When was the last time we did a battle report? That was quite a while ago. It would have been one of the still image battle reports from Warhammer World, won't it?
Yeah.
That
But
was
I'm
quite a
down,
while
Andy,
ago.
I'm down. I'm working in Nottingham. You're living in Nottingham. It's going to happen, man. And as soon as the lockdown eases, we're getting in some games, man.
Well, Warhammer World is actually open for gaming at the moment, but it's only for people of the same household bubble.
Oh,
So they've got a few gaming tables in there that are set up. I've seen the pictures from within Warhammer World. They've got it nicely
right.
spaced out, hand sanitizer everywhere, so it's all efficiently set up. And it seemed a strange time to do it, just as there was news about Nottingham being like the worst hit place in the country and the tier system was coming in and talk of another lockdown. But to me, it sounds like they're doing that because they probably had that as their backup plan rather than the full reopening. And once they realised that this wasn't going to be over soon, they thought we can't just stay fully closed forever, so let's just open it in this limited capacity, which the same thing is happening to Bugman's as well. But with Bugman's and the gaming halls, you'll have to reserve your spots in advance as well, because they can't just have people turning up and expecting to play and eat, because
Yeah.
there's not going to be much space in there. The exhibition hall as well, which you book, I think you book it for 90 minutes for your group, which is plenty of time to get around there and look at everything. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's just very sad, the whole situation. It's like it doesn't matter what you or I or anyone thinks. It's like we don't really have any control over what governments say we can and can't do. But one of my friends' parents just died of COVID, and they live in Iran. And the guy was 82, fit as a fiddle, and he went to the pharmacy. It's the only place he could have gone. He went to the pharmacy, came back, started feeling ill, and obviously didn't get in touch for any help within the few days that is the crucial time to get help. And then before he could say goodbye, it was all done. It's really sad. It is real, and yeah, it's terrifying. But at the same time, it just keeps going on and on and on. So I don't know. Maybe we should just have another full-on lockdown for 2 weeks and just say like, right after that's enough to is enough enough. Enough is enough, and maybe just you know try and live normal lives again because otherwise we can't live like this for
Well,
you
we
know.
certainly can't live the way that the government seem to be expecting people to live because there's clearly not enough support for everyone out there. So we shall
Uh,
see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, whatever measures come in are fast acting and effective and don't need to be repeated to the same full extent anytime soon. But who are we to say? We're not scientists. Certainly
No.
not in this realm. We may be scientists of the gaming table, not.
Yeah, I think you just got to be grateful if you've got a job and you know what I mean. You can support yourself. It's like the most you can wish for at the moment.
Yeah,
'Cause we don't have around.
people who already had jobs that were from home, probably counting their blessings that they don't have to have any kind of turmoil to the same extent as some other people have.
Yeah. Anyway, Andy, stop bringing
On
the
that
mood down.
note,
Come on.
so what do you think of the value then, this box? What price tag would you have put
Uh,
on it, shall we say? Because with current prices, I would have expected it to be £100. So maybe it's a teensy bit higher than what I would have.
no, I think it's decent value, mate. If you're getting the box, you're getting the board, you're getting the scenery. That scenery is probably like if you were to buy that separately, it'd probably cost like 40, 50 quid on its own. You know, at least 20, £25 for each warband, the board, the book, the dice. I think that's fair enough.
It's probably not a bad deal. It's just one big chunk to get you started. And if you look at some of the other game systems, then you're paying that to get your forces and your rule books anyway. It's just not all in one big bundle like that.
Sure, and then like, you know, if you've already got some armies from other factions, you can assemble a little war band, can't you? And all you got to do is just buy the cards for that war band.
Yeah, I think someone like me who already has a lot of terrain looks at this and thinks, well, there's a lot of stuff in there I don't need. So that's probably why it doesn't seem as interesting value to me. I don't know what your terrain collection's like at the moment.
My terrain are you going to show my loom shrine or what then? Come on, Andy. Stop
When we
teasing me.
get to it, I'd have to figure out which tab it is so I don't accidentally spoil everything else we're going to talk about.
Uh,
With my really high-tech setup I've got here. In fact, you know what I can do? Let's try this. There we go. Technical difficulties. It's not really technical difficulties, I'm just finding the right tab without you looking at me scrolling through them all. Okay, there we go. So let's get rid of that. And boom, there you go. By magic. Loon Shrine.
yeah,
On then.
baby.
You're begging for this to be shown. Tell us about it.
Uh, really wonderful to paint. Really enjoyable, man. Didn't take me too long at all. I think I just followed the paint scheme on the back of the box, you know, and yeah, put some nice dry brush washing, did a bit of the old special Remington dusting techniques, which you know I think the wider community may have forgotten. The originator
Dusting
of
on
that,
top of dry brushing.
yeah,
Wow.
and it's called dusting because you actually see dust puffs come off when you're doing it right. It's like magic. You just get awesome results. So the only thing left to finish, well, I've got about 100 mushrooms to add, and I've got to just finish off the mushrooms that are on the moon itself because I've just base coated them at the minute. But I think it looks pretty effective, and that is no filter, my friend. No filter. And you can see just how big it is compared to other models. And also, in the last editions of White Dwarf, there's been some extra rules for squig herds, and now you can get battle plans. I think battle plans. So when your squig or squig hopper or Boingrot bounder units die on a roll of a 4 up, half the unit returns again from the Loon Shrine. So that's kind of cool because I do like my squigglies. So I'd say the Loon Shrine is a must-have for any Gloomspite Git army, right? I
Anyone
mean,
who's a bit of a Gloomspite git, why not?
yeah.
It's a
I
nice
mean,
piece as well.
it is beautiful, man. So I'm really pleased with that. Yeah.
So at this point, I'm going to reverse to the chat and see what everyone's been saying so far. So, a couple of comments on lockdown. People obviously excited for Witch Coven in there. And the Witch Coven theme song, which you gave a little preview of an alternate version of it at the beginning. In excellent clarity, might I add. Let's see. We have got Stu in there talking about potential Scotland lockdown, which affect him obviously.
Man.
Benjamin is in Wales right now, dreading the new lockdown. Yeah, we'll see. It's not great for gaming purposes, but hopefully in the long term it'll be for the best. Let's just wait and see. Gob says, will Ren be the last shareholder standing? Are you going to be the last rat off the sinking ship if GW starts to go down?
I'll be a bit gutted, man. You know, because they were the first stocks I ever bought. They're not the only stocks I own, but they're my best performing stock. But you know, they say you should never let sentiment for a stock spoil your judgment because the stock won't, you know, it won't show you love. It's just a thing. It's just a thing.
The stock
You know,
market certainly does not show anyone affection.
No, it's just there. I mean, I'll still love Games Workshop no matter what. It's just nice to feel like I own a tinsy tiny bit of it, and it's giving me something back.
You love them no matter what. Okay, let's throw a hypothetical at you now. What if the GW big bosses put out a statement saying that because they found out that Remington has invested in them, they're so disappointed that they're going to intentionally tank the company so the stock is worth nothing until you sell your stock, and then they'll start running it properly again.
But why would they be disappointed that I've invested in them?
Because they don't like you for some reason. You still be a fan of the company then, under these circumstances?
I'd buy more shares just to spite them. That's what a gloom spite you get would do, isn't it?
Can't argue with that. Okay, let's see. So, somebody was talking about the rules for these guys in Age of Sigmar. Let's see. Was it? Yeah, somebody was saying that they have. Yeah, there it is. Stu. They do have war scrolls for use in AOS. Yeah, so you can use all the models in the large scale game as well, not just on this small skirmish game. Then we have Batzuka in the chat who says hello. Now, Batzuka, also known as Radbat Designs, if you want to click the link in the description, has created yet another magnificent logo for us, which is for the first installment of Witch Coven coming up later tonight. So you'll be able to wrap your eyeballs around that. And if you're too impatient, you can actually check out in the video description, there's a link to the Redbubble section that contains merch with the new Witch Coven logo on it, which is certainly hot and fresh and steaming. So if you want to jump in there before anyone else gets their hands on that coveted Witch Coven merchandise, then why not jump in there right now? And in fact, anyone that orders anything from there before the end of the show obviously will get a personalised little shout out.
Someone's drilling next door.
Do they not know that you're an international wargaming celebrity who has a specific broadcast time?
It's literally right behind my glass cabinet.
The microphone's not picking it up that well, fortunately.
Oh.
As long as they don't drill straight into it and take out your loon shrine. You sure it's not like a rabid, like hellhound trying to tunnel its way in?
No, the guy next door. I can hear him like arguing with his girlfriend all the time. I think he may have done something to her, and now he's walling her up inside the bed.
He's disposing of a body behind your glass miniatures cabinet.
That's what I reckon, yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If Remington mysteriously goes missing as well, and his home suddenly shrinks by a few feet in one of the rooms, and the wall looks a bit fresh, then Same. Okay, let's see. William says, I got the last Warcry set, only got in a couple of games before lockdown, but it's a great game, definitely going to get the new set. Well, there's a fan. So a ringing endorsement there. Annoyed Zebra. Apparently, this is one of their favourite channels back when Age of Sigmar came out, so an old school fan, and then grinned upon seeing the full sign in the background there. So thumbs up for that. Then we got Gilberg wanted to know how much is the box set. I believe it's £125, isn't it? I think it's 125. The Gargant's 120, or is it the other way around? Anyway, very similar prices. And let's see here. Some annoyed Zebra says I would have put it at 100 or 110 pounds, like every other starter set. I hope this doesn't signify a similar rise for all of the starter boxes. It usually does, doesn't it? First thing that hits that price, everything else follows. And that's typically how you'll see it. One thing will pop up and outrage everyone because it's a few more pounds than the previous similar items, then everything else will follow suit until something else bumps up the price again. You had certain items that significantly raised the whole price structure. Things like the Star Drake, I think, were a big jump when they came out. The Gargant is certainly another one of those.
I just expect things to go up. Expect everything to go up. You know, we're not just talking about like a world recession. We're talking about Brexit on top of that. It sucks, man.
As if there wasn't enough going on, we have to deal with that nonsense as well.
Yeah. So that's that.
You're not supposed to be quite so negative. You've got to be enthused for tonight because you're going to be the Coven master.
I can't wait, man. Look, for 5 years, I've had to suffer the almost intolerable indignity of being Andy's like baldric slave in his puppet mastery debacle known as the Forest of Rem. And finally, after years of planning, of plotting, of probing, of producing, of publicizing, I bring to you Witch Coven, in which Andy will be my puppet, for I will be the DM, Dungeon Master, in Witch Coven. I can't wait to present it to you guys. It's going to be amazing, and part 1 is going to happen very soon.
Very exciting. Interested G says, I definitely choose a Mega Gargant over that box. It's a tough one. If you're actually going to play the game, then the box obviously is a lot more of an attractive proposition. If you just want it for the miniatures, then I think the Gargant is such an impressive specimen and be such an eye-catching piece in your collection, wouldn't it? So it's got that going for it. Stu says I'd choose a Gargant over that box too, but I still wouldn't buy a Gargant. Okay, £120 for one model is nuts. It certainly is nuts. And I did see that Mantic, for one, put on a deal on their Giants. So I think the exact price, I can't remember whether it was 3 for £50 or something like that. It was definitely way less than one Gargant. And the Mantic Giant is very nice.
Well, if you buy it from an independent store, you can maybe get the Gargant for £96. Does that sound better?
Marginally. So yeah, there are a lot of other companies out there that have Giants. Benjamin, the Mantic deal is cheeky. Yes, it is. As soon as they saw the outrage at GW's pricing, they released their own deal for 3 Giants in one pack. Some people do prefer the Mantic Giant, actually, as Stu points out. So they're both very nice. The Gargant, I imagine you get a lot of extra bits in it, because GW are pretty good with that nowadays. Annoyed Zebra, I don't think I could ever trust myself to paint the Gargant because it's such a huge investment for one miniature. That's kind of how I feel whenever I buy anything big, or at least I did feel that way back in the day. When I had, for example, the Mortis engine, then getting even more expensive, the Star Drake, which I think I got that from another retailer, so it was somewhere like £80, £85, somewhere around there. It was still very expensive.
Dear viewers, let me give you the example of the Marienburg land ship, which when it came out was something like £149 from Forge World. It was a really amazing model, beautiful, man. And you can't get it anymore except on eBay or secondhand, and they're selling at between £250 and £300 now. So it's all very well saying that, yeah, it's really expensive at 110, £120. And yes, it may very well be, but is it ever going to be worth less than that? Is the question you could ask.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, and I would say that once you've painted it up, then yes is the answer.
Really?
Yeah, unless you paint it ridiculously well, and somebody wants one in the exact colour scheme you've chosen.
Yeah, but I think your painting is more likely to improve by painting a larger model than it is a really small one.
Well,
Small model.
I thought my Stormcast in general, but in particular the beasts, so the smaller beasts and then the huge Star Drake. I think that was a good point in my painting. I think I improved quite a lot around that time. So I would recommend painting a large dragon-sized model at some point. Anybody?
Absolutely. That's it. When you got all that skin, you got all the expressions on the face, it's really going to help your painting. If you're into it, but you don't want a Gargant in every single army, do you? But you can. You can have a Gargant in every single army. So it's cool in that way. It's not like it only works within one army or on its own within its own faction. It's kind of cool.
We've got
Oh,
some insight here on body disposal, I think. Batzuka says, easier to stuff in floorboards, I would feel. Yeah, so rather than building a whole new wall and shoving someone in behind it, just pry the floorboards up. It depends how much space you've got under there. If you're on the ground floor, perhaps, then maybe you've got a bit of a space down there.
Oh, Stu Gibson. I had a landship and sold it before it went out of production. Oh, man. I wish I'd have known that. I would have bought that off you.
Well, we all have stories like that, don't we? Because we'll have things in our collection and we think that's never going to be worth anything. Like I had a barely touched version of the original Warhammer Quest, which I sold way back. And then if I still had that today, I'm sure I'd get an excellent price for it. Same with Epic Titan Legions, that was barely played as well. All these classic old things, if you hold on to them and just hoard them, eventually they will be worth a bit more, but can you really justify taking up that much space on the off chance that it becomes one of those really sought after items?
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, I'll advise you that this, from my own poor experience, is that never get into debt to buy stuff. It's awful, awful habit to do it. Just buy it if you really can afford it, or set yourself the rule of, you'll buy it as long as you sell something else to make up for it. But
When it comes to people hoarding miniatures, I'm a bit ambivalent on that, shall we say, because I like the idea of the things being circulated back into the community and people getting use out of them, especially things where there's only limited numbers of them left. You don't want to just see them getting dusty. You want people to actually get some joy out of them, paint them, get them on the table. But on the other hand, in years to come, if those things don't come back into production at all, then nobody's going to be able to get their hands on a nice new one if nobody hoards them. So, it's
Andy, let
one.
me outline my point, right? I mean, this sucks. I remember boasting on last week's show about that. Remember that?
But you'd sold it.
And yeah, I thought I'd sold it too. But it seems not, because look, I got this message, and this is just going to illustrate my point beautifully, I think. Here we go. Hi, I'm sorry, but I can't pay for these Tomb King cavalry until the 23rd of this month, payday. I've overspent on auctions. I want this item and promise to pay on said date. I understand if you cannot wait and want to relist. So just to stress, I want this item. Many thanks, Mark. Well, just to stress, Mark, that you bought this item and now you're telling me you can't afford it, but you still want it.
Are you planning to wait and see if the money comes in?
Do you know what? I think I am a kind-hearted fellow. I did say I will hold this item until the 23rd and no later.
I think that's fair enough. Because I've seen people before when they're bidding on multiple similar items, not expecting to win them all, and then suddenly they do, and they're a bit stuck. So these things do happen occasionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Annoyed Zebra says, in those kinds of situations, I always want to be mean, but always err on the side of kindness. And Zebra, thanks for that comment. And you also say, I have a huge pile of shame right now. Let's name and shame, Zebra. What you got in that pile? Name and shame. That should be
Everyone's
a
got a
good
pile
little.
of shame.
Let's make a new section of the show called Name and Shame, or Pile of Shame.
Pile of shame. There's one. Actually, yeah, next week, let's get people to take pictures of their piles of shame. We can go
Love
through
it.
them and analyse all the miniatures in them. So yeah, I'll post that in the Topic of the Week section and our Discord server, which you can find in the description, obviously. And I'll put it on Facebook as well, so everyone can post their piles of shame in there, and we'll deeply probe and analyse them next week.
I love, you go on eBay and you see Warhammer Lot, and it will just be like a tray with a bunch of figures over it, and that'll be the only picture. And you like magnify it, and you look and think, is there any rare things in there? And those sort of auctions, they go for loads, because there's one or two really rare lead items in there, and bits of plasticky this and that. We could go with the pile of shame / what the hell is that, couldn't we?
And I'll be giving out bonus points to anyone that poses next to their pile of shame with kind of a guilt-ridden look on their face as well.
Love it.
So we'll see
Pile
about
of
that.
shame.
Let's have a look at some of these other pages that I've got prepared here. Let's just whiz through them a bit. So Warhammer 40,000, we don't care about that much, do we? But
Well,
there is a
Andy,
nice
just before you
space
go
marine
on, and
there.
before I forget, let me ask the audience to write some lyrical ideas for the Pile of Shame theme tune.
There you go. Pile of Shame
Pile.
theme tune.
There's no one to blame for your pile of shame. No one but you to blame for your pile of shame.
There's no one to blame for your pile of shame but yourself. There's no one to blame for the pile of shame on your shelf.
When it gets wet, it rains on your pile of shame. No, it doesn't work, does it?
Insight into Remington's rhyming system here. Just say words that rhyme and hope that they match up somehow lyrically.
No pain, no gain with your pile of shame. Pile of shame, says Zebra, slows whenever a painter does. That doesn't rhyme. If torn from Warhammer Weekly, send in a pic, he'll automatically win.
Does he have a hideous pile of shame?
Wallow in it, don't be afraid of your pile of shame. Guys, you need to rhyme. Flipping heck, songwriting 101 it.
So we've looked at this Space Marine Terminator Chaplain for long enough. Moving on, Necromunda. This is kind of relevant to our interests. And there's some new Necromunda stuff. Some Orlocks. That's a large hammer indeed, with some power gloves of some description. More Orlocks. And I think the Orlocks actually add some ladies to their mix as well for the first time.
Right.
Which is interesting, of course. So these ones look like they jump or grapple onto things, perhaps.
These are pretty cool. Did you check out the Necromunda game yet on Steam?
I haven't yet. I've watched some gameplay of it, but I haven't got it.
Right, you can see the whole what's cutscenes on YouTube. I was watching that for half an hour. It's kind of cool, man.
That'd be a terrifying sight, wouldn't it? Someone jumping down at you, some kind of jetpack, dual-wielding knives with murderous intent. And then look at this, Cyber Mastiffs, or Mecha Doge. I think we've seen these before. Look at that artwork. Truly terrifying. Okay, so dogs. Next, another thing from the Warhammer community. Let's see. So, painted gargants. Now, these are actually really nice. So the first one, look at this. I think these are all heavily converted. So what do you think of this? What do you think of this bad boy?
Don't like it.
Got a lot of arms.
It's horrible. It looks a bit like Shiva, the Indian god of destruction, with the multiple arms. Kind of cool actually, but I don't like it. It's good, but I don't like it.
Fair enough. I also think it's good. It's well put together, but it's a different tone. Not in the colour sense. It's a different tone, as in it looks a bit more serious and gritty than the kind of comical, slightly light-hearted, funny gargants that I like to see. Next, you can see some of the details on this one. Obviously, it's an excellent piece of work. We're not going to dispute that. Next one. So I think this one looks fairly standard. It's just got a lot of extra danglage.
Yeah, I love this one. This is awesome, man.
It is lacking any like people dangling off though, I think.
I mean, he looks, battle hardened. It's covered in smoky oil.
The blood actually looks very natural on this as well. Look at the knuckles there and the knee. Pretty good.
He really looks like he's in it till the very bitter end, isn't he? That guy. Like a Spanish Inquisition flagellant
Snazzy
giant.
details there. And there's another one here. Now this is obviously nerglified because look at that. Stomach's hanging open, intestines falling out, and I definitely like this one.
Yeah, it's brilliant. From that angle, the hole looks a bit weird, but when you look at it from the side, it makes sense a bit better. But yeah, this is like amazing.
Yeah, you can see when you look at it inside with a bit of lighting in there, you can see a foot, you can see bits of organs and spine at the back there. Very nice.
It's horrible. I mean, the poor guy. I mean, he just can eat all day, but he'll never be satisfied because it just keeps pouring out of his tummy.
I think the poor guy is the one whose foot is sitting in there, actually.
He really should get someone to sew that up,
Don't know if it'd help. I imagine whatever's in there would just eat through the stitches. Nice nurgling in there, of course. Can't go wrong with nurglings.
I can't ever collect Nurgle stuff. It's like, it just reminds me of when I got food poisoning from eating a rotten chicken. It was just horrible. For 3 or 4 days, I felt like I was going to die.
How did you tolerate the Forest of Rem with all the talk of pustules?
It was very hard, mate. I had to, think of lilies and cherubs and things like that constantly. It wasn't easy, man.
Okay, let's see what else we've got. So we looked at this, obviously. And there's a bit of a sneak preview, I think, coming up in a minute. These are some images from your original concept for what a witch coven might be, including Andy the Ungor there.
Yeah, these are preliminary conceptual dioramas. You can see our hero in the middle is Andy the Ungor, bitter and twisted and warped into the shape as we see him there. Perhaps I've overblessed him with a shield, but he is surrounded by terrifying witches braying for his blood.
Yeah, so we'll see whether the actual witch coven is anything like these original dioramas that were set up years ago now. There's been talk of witch coven for a very long time, and it's finally going to come to fruition immediately after following segment. So get your eyeballs ready, because it's time for that.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington! Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
Okay, there you go. What the hell is that?
Oh my God, these are getting awful.
Well, clearly it is a porcupine. However, there are 3 or 4 in fact, rogue items on there. They're all from the same miniature. So you can see obviously that there's some kind of additional spine or spike on its back there, which shouldn't be there. That's a rogue item. There are 2 rogue items protruding from under its nose, representing the teeth. They're also from the miniature in question. And if you look closely into its eyeball, you might notice that it's actually an eye from a different thing, perhaps a miniature of some kind. So, Dicey Guy says elf spearman. No, it's not an elf spearman. So, this is quite a difficult one, and I can tell you now that I don't think that this product is currently available. In fact, I'm fairly sure it isn't. It's quite old. William says More Crusher. Nope, it's old. Benjamin says Dark Elf Dragon Rider dude. Nope. Dicey Guy thinks Mega Gargant. No. It's old, I'm telling you. This is one of the iconic models of the 90s. Kind of mid-90s, I would say. Dicey Guy says Nagash. Nope, it is not Nagash. I'm going to start giving clues now because it's quite a difficult one. So this model comes in a box with several almost identical models. Some of them probably are identical. It's from a plastic monopose box set. A couple of different sculpts, I think, at least in there. They're all in the same pose. Come on, somebody. Somebody's got to get this. Dicey Guy says dwarf. No, it's not a dwarf. Interested G, Skaven. It is not Skaven. I give you another clue and tell you that the box in question is human. Would that narrow it down for you? Benjamin says Skeleton Warriors. No. William. Interesting. Bretonnian Archer. Well, let's have a look, shall we? There you go. Bretonnian Bowman. That's what it is. So the spine was a bit of the bow sticking up there. All the yellow came from the garments, and the eyeball is actually an eyeball from one of these Bretonnian bowmen. So very impressive. A keen eye you've got there, William. So good job. You've earned much internet respect. And in fact, you've earned the ability to go and buy loads of our merchandise and not feel bad about it. Sounds good to me as a prize. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Because Remington has been preparing for months for this moment. It's time. Let's dive in to just get rid of these images. There's so many things I have to switch on and off on here now. Now that we've got so many red hot segments on this show.
So flawlessly, Andy.
Let's get rid of that and that. And here we go. It's time for the Witch Coven. Now look at that magnificent logo. Rad Bat Designs. Check out the link in the description. Check out the Redbubble link if you want to buy the merch with this logo on it, because look at it. Magnificent piece of work.
Wow.
And while you're observing it, I'm actually going to play you the Witch Coven theme song. Right now, in fact. So, strap yourselves in. Get your ears ready. Enjoy this feast.
Witch Coven, Andy the Younger in Witch Coven, narrated by Remington Steele, the famous DM in Witch Coven. That's it, a Witch Coven, Andy the Younger in Witch Coven, a world that doesn't care that Andy is a beast man who lays it all bare. Witch Coven, Andy's gonna get in Witch Coven. He's gonna get it every week. A sacrifice to Cain. He's gonna get it every week. Andy the Younger in Witch Coven.
And it's over. Okay. Theme song done. It's a very long theme song you made there, Mr. Rem.
What do you think? You like that? I wrote that on the spot.
And we couldn't
Anyway,
tell at all.
You're spoiling the mood here, Andy. I might do a
okay.
darker. I might do a darker theme for next week. We'll see.
Get us in the zone then. Take it away.
Okay, Witch Coven Part 1. Andy the Ungor. A terrifying world was just the reality for one human/animal-like being who belonged to the Bray herd in the Drakenwald forest. His name was Andy the Ungor, or in the dark tongue, Now, for the first 5 or 10 minutes of this adventure, Andy cannot speak English. He must only reply or question in the dark tongue. So, Andy, how do you feel today? Anything else? So, until Andy is given the blessing of Morgur, he will not be able to speak apart from in guttural animal tones for a good portion of this part one of the adventure. So we'll have to look at Andy's facial expressions and the intonations of his brave voice. So, as your dear DM, Remington, let's set the scene. Andy is somewhat of a black sheep in his Bray herd, and that means he's not the most powerful Ungor. Perhaps he's not the weakest because he hasn't been devoured by the tribe's Gorgon as yet. But Andy is alive. Andy eats, he thrives, he lives, he follows the Bray herd and Kimchi, the leader of the Bray herd, who is not an Ungor, he's not even a Gore. He's what's known as a beast lord, and his booming voice can be heard throughout the day as it terrifies the locals in the forest and calls to the Braystone, the Herdstone, all of the beastmen of the forest. And this morning was no different. Roar! Bray herd is summoned, and Andy follows the herd. And at the general meeting of the Bray herd, Andy sees the Beast Maiden. Beast Maiden who he has loved or desired for many, many years. And whenever he sees her, Andy makes this noise. She's yet to acknowledge Andy's existence even, for he is just a lowly Ungor. But an Ungor has dreams too, and one day, perhaps an Ungor's horns can grow. But to do this, he must receive the blessings of the Dark Lords, and he must survive a series of ordeals and become a legend in the Bray herd, and perhaps then he can take what will be owed to him, for Uglog, the Beast Maiden, will one day be his, and Andy has vowed this and prayed upon the Herdstone for this dream to become true. So there's the scene. We have Andy the Ungor. He's has a loincloth, he has some bones, he has some claws, he has some teeth, and he has some snubs on his head which haven't yet formed into horns. For horns are the most prized gift a beastman can possess. So, Andy is left as the Bray herd disperse. But Andy left solely on his own, sat next to the Herdstone, the idol of the beastmen, a place in which sacrifices are laid. Upon the stone could be severed heads, bones, blood, sometimes even dung and manure. Andy is there, and he now faces a choice. Who will Andy pray to? Which god will he invoke? Will it be the god of the Gorgon, or will it be the god of the Cygor? Andy, which will it be? You can't talk in English, by the way. You'll have to use sign language and noises. Oh. Andy has made the sign of the one-eyed giant. He will pray to the Cygor, a huge, one-eyed beastman giant who despises magic. In fact, he despises magic so much he repels magic and can see through the mortal realms. Andy, what will you sacrifice at the foot of the herdstone? Your loincloth? No. Will you make a blood sacrifice, Andy? For that is the only thing the Cygor will accept. Andy decides to sacrifice a portion of his little finger. He scratches it, he bites it, and blood pours, and he squeals in pain. And droplets of blood fall upon the herdstone, and then it sizzles, almost like rain and fire mixed together. Smoke appears, and the symbol of the Cygor appears etched upon the giant 20-foot stone of the herdstone, and the eye looks down upon Andy and blesses him with the gift of many tongues. And finally, Andy can communicate in the language known as English.
Excellent.
So, at this point, Andy, you have a mission. The Cygor is giving you the opportunity to become a legend in your tribe. Roll the dice, for the fates could be with you.
What do you think it is?
I'm hoping it's a 1.
It is a 1, yes.
Unfortunately, the eye turns into a huge maw and devours Andy. And so your adventure ends here. Not really. But the eye is displeased and doesn't believe Andy has what it takes to complete, nay, even participate in part 1 of this adventure, let alone the many, many trials which await poor Andy the Ungor. For he is in such a lowly, paupered position right now. How can an Ungor with toughness 3, weapon skill 3, suddenly and hopefully desperately compete with the trials and the beasts he may well encounter on the road to the Witch Coven? Andy, what will you answer? The Cygor's wisdom has spoken.
Well, Mr. Cygor, I don't think you know Andy the Ungor very well. Because not only am I alive and thriving, as a voice in the sky told me recently, I have also now been blessed with the gift of speech. I can use this not only to facilitate my passage into various other encampments out here in the woods, but I can also use it to trick them into committing deeds that would lead to their
The
exposure.
Cygor is displeased with your prattling, Andy. He knows you are weak. He knows you stand little or no chance on this adventure. But he's willing to be amused. At least, he has a bet with his Gorgon brother that he can use you, Andy, to bring glory and renown to the Brayherd nonetheless. And despite the fact you are but a lowly Ungor, ever more, ever greater will be the achievement, however much, however far you get on the road to glory. So at this point, you must roll another dice, because this will determine the adventure which lays before you.
2. That's better than 1.
It is 2. Okay, so the Cygor knows that Andy will need some help on this adventure. So he asks you to delve and tread and trod with your hooves all the way deep into the Drakenfold to a place unknown to the realm of men. In fact, more or less unknown to the realm of beastmen, for few have come back from the realm of the Jabberslythe. Will you press on, or will you roll the dice again for an alternative adventure?
Andy the Ungor will press on into the realm of the Jabberslythe.
Andy the Ungor receives +1 bravery for his no nonsense approach. Well done, Andy. You have been blessed by the Cygor, and your bravery has been rewarded. Let me just write that down. Andy, bravery equals 2. That's 1 plus 1. Andy, what will you take with you to the realm of the Jabberslythe?
Do I have a choice?
At your feet and the herdstone, you see a collection of bones, spears, clubs, and one of those clubs with a nail through it. I don't know what you call them, but they could be handy. Andy, what will you choose?
Am I only allowed one of these things?
You may, or you may roll the dice to sift through the dung pile.
You know what? I was tempted to go for a spear, but sifting through that dung pile, I think I can roll a 6 and get something pretty sweet out of that. So let's go for it. Let's
Roll.
forage right in there.
Roll
We
the
go.
dice of destiny. And the result is
It's a
a
1
1.
again.
It's a 1. Andy reaches into the huge pile of Gorgon dung, and in it he finds something hard and prickly. And he pulls it out and he finds a morning star. Piece of wood with a chain which is rusted and a spiked ball on the end. 4. 1 may not necessarily be always the bad roll in the Drakenwald forest. Well done, Andy. You took a chance, and your +1 bravery played an important role in that. So, armed with a morning star, which you're not quite sure how to use, and you got to make sure that you don't hurt yourself, you trot forward even, into the very heart of the Drakenwald. The marshland before you becomes ever wetter, ever deeper, ever muddier, and the flies of Nurgle start buzzing around, for this is an evilly enchanted realm. And little is known about the monstrosity known as the Jabberslythe, for it bears around it an aura of madness, and only those with very low intelligence and just plain stupid would ever willingly encounter the realm of the Jabberslythe. But our need is great. Andy, will at this
Yes.
point you turn back to the herdstone and tell the Cygor that you went, lying to him, or will you press ahead?
I will press ahead. You know what? I've got +1 bravery and a morning star. Is anything else really necessary? Beat challenge that
No.
lies ahead. I
Well,
think
you
that's
won't
enough.
have to. Yeah, I can tell you now, you won't stand a chance if you want to fight the Jabberslythe. But who knows? You might gain some insight into the adventure ahead by pressing on, and I'm glad you did. For as you approach the marshland, the buzzing turns into a strange cackling laughter. It sounds almost feminine. It sounds like an old hag, almost like Hansel and Gretel's witch. And then you hear what sounds like flapping or pathetic clapping. And you look and you see a small pair of wings, leathery and bat like, flapping very hard. But they're not very big. And at this moment, you can't see what's beneath the wings. What will you do? Will you wait and see what arises out of the marsh? Or will you try and pull the wings up and help this creature who clearly is stuck?
You know what? I think Andy the Ungor is quite an honourable Ungor. I think I'm going to pull the wings out and introduce myself boldly to whatever this unfortunate creature is.
A test of bravery is required. Andy, bravery 2. Roll 1d6.
Go. 5.
A 5. You needed to roll within your bravery score. So you failed the bravery test, unfortunately. You grab the leathery wings, but unfortunately the moist, slimy, sludgy dew makes the wings slip from your hands, and you hear a death-defying cackle. And this time a giant tongue spits out of the mud and curls its huge, leathery, spory, tongy tongue all around your waist and threatens to pull you in. What will you do? Will you strike forward with your morning star, or will you cry for help in the dark tongue? Or finally, will you do nothing and make one final bravery test?
I actually have an idea. So, we're in these swampy marshlands. That sounds quite slippery, yes?
It is.
I'm thinking if I pick up some of that slime and kind of liberally lubricate the loincloth area and kind of slip out of the loincloth, hopefully this hideous tongue will slip off with the loincloth and continue gripping that while I slide away in the nude.
Roll the dice.
3.
A 3 is within your strength, which is strength 3. You have passed the strength test. Tugging on the slippery tongue, you manage to pull it away from you, but in doing so, a pair of eyes appear from the mud, looking up at you. These eyes, each one is the size of your head, bulging out. They look all around as if you've awoken a beast, and the flapping wings become ever more flappy. Arising from the mud, you see the terrifying, horrifying, psychedelic, psychotic form of the Jabberslife. Who is this beast who cries and lies before me?
I don't recall crying or lying. I am Andy the Ungor, recently blessed with the power of speech, and I am here to traverse your realm.
A great destiny I can see which lies before you, Andy. Or maybe this is just a dream. A dream in my aura of madness. Can you feel it, Andy? Can you sense the madness?
I can sense an aura of madness in here at the moment, yes.
Roll the dice of destiny, Andy.
5.
5. 5 means he is alive. Andy, you have survived the madness test, and the Jabberslife looks quite perplexed, for no one in many centuries has survived this far in his den of terrifying madness, except you, a lowly Ungor. I'm not quite sure what to do with you, Andy the Ungor.
How about you give me your blessing?
I hear your name on the poison wind, and I offer you my wings to carry you aloft to an ancient, long forgotten land. Do you accept my gift to you?
I accept.
Climb on top of my spory back.
Okay. So,
Part 1 ends here. Andy, you've made it through the Drakenwald forest into the nigh-on, impossible to survive layer of the Jabberslife, and you have befriended it. and earned yourself a boon. Join us next time for part 2 of Witch Coven.
Well, I'll agree that Andy the Ungor is a much more charismatic protagonist than Remington the Bard. Fair enough.
I think you did pretty well there, Andy. Let's see what the audience is saying. Is that how bravery tests work now? Says Stu. Good game, says Dicey Guy. Great song. Terrible WTHI. What does that? What the hell is that, though? Oh.
Yeah. Some people not a fan of the extra difficult what the hell is that?
Yes. Well, I think we should try the new form of what the hell is that, and that's take a picture of loads of figures piled up.
Well, maybe. But that's going to infringe on the pile of shame segment that we're running next.
We could call it name and shame. Kind of like a mixture of what the hell is that and a pile of shame.
Potentially. We'll get some audience feedback on that one. So, looks like people were entertained by that at least. So I think we'll have to run it by some of the investors in the show. I think we can come back for another episode at least.
Definitely. I think I've got almost as far as I wanted to in part 1. And you can see that I've actually gone to a lot of effort to write some notes in and various outcomes that could take place within the Witch Coven adventure. And what we should do in this adventure is give Andy stats so he knows what exactly he's rolling against and what he needs in this adventure. And at the moment, we've come to the conclusion that Andy has bravery 2, which could go up or down as he progresses on the adventure. He'll also have a strength stat, a toughness stat, and I'm not sure what else you need really.
Weapon skill.
A weapon skill. Yes, I should write that down. So we're going old school fantasy stats. Weapon skill, strength, toughness, attacks, I like that. Wounds. Yes. And intelligence.
Intelligence is obviously off the chart.
Yeah, I'll give you that. We might have to give you some intelligence and sacrifice some strength. Well, that's looking very good.
For anyone that's a fan of this kind of juicy content, I can tell you that it only took 17 hours, but the 6-hour-long Forest of Rem Season 2 video has been rendered. I just need to upload it now. So if you want to watch the entire Season 2 in one 6-hour chunk, then very soon you'll be able to do that.
That's phenomenal, Andy. Wow, you should release that as a DVD.
Could put it on Blu-ray. With special features like commentary from Remington, talking through the bizarre decisions you made and explaining what led to them.
Well, I think it's important to play as your character.
I agree. Well,
there you go. I think you're going to meet a lot of interesting characters on this adventure, and who knows, we might have some special guests starring alongside myself to entertain the masses in Witch Coven.
Very well. Okay, folks, that wraps it up for this week. Don't forget, obviously, to check out all the links in the description, various Redbubble sections, including for the brand new Witch Coven logo, which you can see right before you, created by Radbat Designs, which is also linked in the description. We've got the Facebook group, the Discord server. If you want to go on one of those two, then you'll be able to participate in the Pile of Shame segment, which I'm going to be posting up at some point in the next couple of days to post on there. And there's all kinds of other social media goodness going on down there, and of course Patreon as well. And speaking of Patreon, it's that time of the week. Let's just bring up the old video thumbnail first so people can have a good look at that. I'm going to personally thank the extra spicy patrons who have pledged to the specific funding level where they actually get their name recognised at the end of each video. So I'm going to give extra spicy, juicy, succulent, tender, moist thanks to the following people. So extra special thanks to Graham, Tim, John, Eric, Brad, Barbara, and Guy. All of you are extra spicy. Mr. Remington, is there anything you would like to say before we go off the air?
Oh, guys, give the episode a little quick like for us, please. It makes a big difference. It's what all the YouTubers say anyway, but it makes a big difference to the algorithm. And, you know, if you like this show, spread it around, man. Let's make sure more people watch it, because then it'll only make us want to do it more.
Yes, and don't forget to tune in next week for the Pile of Shame special, which we also this month we're going to have some kind of spooky theme as well, because we're approaching Halloween rapidly.
Ooh.
So that's going to be fun. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And with that, all that remains to be said, I think, is whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy